Zahhak Bivar-Asp is an evil figure in Iranian mythology, evident in ancient Iranian folklore as Aži Dahāka, the name by which he also appears in the texts of the Avesta. In Middle Persian he is called Dahāg or Bēvar-Asp, the latter meaning 10,000 horses. In Zoroastrianism, Zahhak is considered the son of Angra Mainyu, the foe of Ahura Mazda. Etymology and derived words. Aži is the Avestan word for serpent or dragon. It is cognate to the Vedic Sanskrit word ahi, snake, and without a sinister implication. Aži and ahi are distantly related to Greek office, Latin angus, Russian and Old Church Slavonic, all meaning snake. The original meaning of Dahāka is uncertain. Among the meanings suggested are stinging, burning, man or man-like, huge or foreign. In Persian mythology, Zahhak is treated as a proper noun, and is the source of the Arak of the Shah name. The Avestan term Aži Dahāka and the Middle Persian as Dahāg are the source of the Middle Persian Manichaean demon of greed, Arizona. Old Armenian mythological figure as Zahhak. Modern Persian as Deva, as Dahār, and Tajik Persian Aži Dahāka and Urdu Aži Dahāka, as well as the Kurdish Ejia, which usually mean dragon. Despite the negative aspect of Aži Dahāka in mythology, dragons have been used on some banners of war throughout the history of Iranian peoples. The Aži Dahāka group of pterosaurs are named from an Persian word for dragon that ultimately comes from Aži Dahāka. Zurich in the Shahnameh. In Ferdowsi's epic poem, the Shahnameh, written c. 1000 AD and part of Iranian folklore, the legend is retold with the main character given the name of Zahak. Zahak in Arabia. According to Ferdowsi, Zahak was born as the son of an Arab ruler named Murdas. Because of his Arab origins, he is sometimes called Zahak-i-Tazi, the Arabian Zahak. Quote, "He was handsome and clever, but he had no stability of character and was easily influenced by evil counselors. Ahriman therefore chose him as the tool for his plans for world domination. When Zahak was a young man, Ahriman first appeared to him as a glib, flattering companion, and by degrees convinced him that he ought to kill his own father and take over his territories. He taught him to dig a deep pit covered over with leaves in a place where Murdas was accustomed to walk. Murdas fell in and was killed. Zahak thus became both patricidal and king at the same time. Ahriman now took another guise, and presented himself to Zahak as a marvelous cook. After he had presented Zahak with many days of sumptuous feasts, Zahak was willing to give Ahriman whatever he wanted. Ahriman merely asked to kiss Zahak on his two shoulders. Zahak permitted this, but when Ahriman had touched his lips to Zahak's shoulders, he immediately vanished. At once, two black snakes grew out of Zahak's shoulders. They could not be surgically removed, for as soon as one snake head had been cut off, another took its place. Ahriman now appeared to Zahak in the form of a skilled physician. He counseled Zahak that the only remedy was to let the snakes remain on his shoulders, and sate the hunger by supplying them with human brains for food every day, otherwise the snakes will feed on his own. From a psychological point of view, the snakes on Zahak's shoulders could represent his lust for killing or a form of sadism which, if left unsatisfied, would torment Zahak. Also, when Zahak is defeated by Feridun, he cannot think of a better fitting punishment than to simply bound him in cave where the snakes will eat Zahak's own brain, symbolizing his inner agony and unsatisfied homicidal lust. This story is Ferdowsi's way of reconciling the descriptions of Dahāg as a three-headed dragon monster and those stories which treat him as a human king. According to Ferdowsi, Zahak is originally human, but through the magic of Ahriman he becomes a monster. He does, in fact, have three heads, the two snake heads and one human head, and the snakes remind us of his original character as a dragon. The characterization of Zahhak as an Arab in part reflects the earlier association of Dahāg with the Semitic peoples of Iraq, but probably also reflects the continued resentment of many Iranians at the 7th century Arab conquest of Persia. Unlike the figure of Zahhak in Iranian mythology, the word Zahhak in Arabic means to laugh and to smile. Zahhak the emperor about this time, Jamshid, who was then the ruler of the world, through his arrogance lost his divine right to rule. Zahhak presented himself as a savior to those discontented Iranians who wanted a new ruler. Collecting a great army, he marched against Jamshid, who fled when he saw that he could not resist Zahhak. Zahhak hunted Jamshid for many years, and at last caught him and subjected him to a miserable death. He had Jamshid sawn in half. Zahhak now became the ruler of the entire world. Among his slaves were two of Jamshid's daughters, Arnavaz and Shahnavaz. Zahhak's two snakeheads still craved human brains for food, so every day Zahhak's spies would seize two men, and execute them so the brains could feed the snakes. Two men, called Amayel and Garmail, wanted to find a way to rescue people from being killed from the snakes, so they learned cookery, and after mastering how to cook great meals, they went to Zahhak's palace and managed to become the chefs of the palace. Every day, they saved one of the two men and put the brain of a sheep instead of his into the food, but they could not save the lives of both men. Those who were saved were told to flee to the mountains and to faraway plains. Zahhak's tyranny over the world lasted for centuries, but one day Zahhak had a terrible dream. He thought that three warriors were attacking him, and that the youngest knocked him down with his mace, tied him up, and dragged him off toward a tall mountain. When Zahhak woke, he was in a panic. Following the counsel of Arnavaz, he summoned wise men and dream readers to explain his dream. They were reluctant to say anything, but one finally said that it was a vision of the end of Zahhak's reign, that rebels would arise and dispossess Zahhak of his throne. He even named the man who would take Zahhak's place, Feridun. Zahhak now became obsessed with finding this Feridun and destroying him, though he did not know where he lived or who his family was. His spies went everywhere looking for Feridun, and finally heard that he was but a boy, being nourished on the milk of the marvelous cow Barmaya. The spies traced Barmaya to the highland meadows where it grazed, but Feridun had already fled before them. They killed the cow, but had to return to Zahhak with the mission unfulfilled. The revolution against Zahhak. Zahhak now tried to consolidate his rule by coercing an assembly of the leading men of the kingdom into signing a document testifying to Zahhak's righteousness, so that no one could have any excuse for rebellion. One man spoke out against this charade, a blacksmith named Carver, before the whole assembly. Carver told how Zahhak's minions had murdered 17 of his 18 sons so that Zahhak might feed his snake's lust for human brains. The last son had been imprisoned, but still lived. In front of the assembly, Zahhak had to pretend to be merciful and so released Carver's son. But when he tried to get Carver to sign the document attesting to Zahhak's justice, Carver tore up the document, left the court, and raised his blacksmith's apron as a standard of rebellion, the Kaviani Bana di Rashi Kaviani. He proclaimed himself in support of Feridun as ruler. Soon many people followed Carver to the Alborz Mountains, where Feridun was now living. He was now a young man and agreed to lead the people against Zahhak. He had a mace made for him with a head like that of an ox, and with his brothers and followers went forth to fight against Zahhak. Zahhak had already left his capital, and it fell to Feridun with small resistance. Feridun freed all of Zahhak's prisoners, including Arnavaz and Shahnavaz. Kondro, Zahhak's treasurer, pretended to submit to Feridun, but when he had a chance he escaped to Zahhak and told him what had happened. Zahhak at first dismissed the matter, but when he heard that Feridun had seated Jamshid's daughters on thrones beside him like his queens, he was incensed and immediately hastened back to his city to attack Feridun. When he got there, Zahhak found his capital held strongly against him, and his army was in peril from the defense of the city. Seeing that he could not reduce the city, he sneaked into his own palace as a spy and attempted to assassinate Arnavaz and Shahnavaz. Feridun struck Zahhak down with his ox-headed mace, but did not kill him. On the advice of an angel, he bound Zahhak and imprisoned him in a cave underneath Mount Damavand, binding him with a lion's pelt tied to great nails fixed into the walls of the cavern, where he will remain until the end of the world. Thus, after 1,000 years' tyranny, ended the reign of Zahhak. Place names. Zahhak Castle is the name of an ancient ruin in Hashtrad, East Azerbaijan, Iran, which according to various experts, was inhabited from the 2nd millennia BC until the Timurid era. First excavated in the 19th century by British archaeologists, Iran's Cultural Heritage Organization has been studying the structure in 6 phases. In popular culture, the Konami video game Suikoden 5 has 2 references to Zahak, an evil knight named Zahak, as well as a large ship named Dahāg. In StarCraft 2, Heart of the Swarm, there exists a primal Zerg that goes by a similar name. In the webcomic Homestuck of MS Paint Adventures, Equus Zahhak is a troll with extreme physical strength and a fascination with horses. In the visual novel Seki no Inganik, What a Beautiful People, incorrectly manifested Kikai referred to as Zahhak. In the video game series Mass Effect, Aquarian named Professor Zahhak was involved in the creation of the Geth, a hive mind consciousness of artificially intelligent machines. In the Xenoverse, Zahhak is the supernatural adversary whom both Xena and later Hercules must defeat in order to save the world from utter destruction. In Final Fantasy Legend 3, intermediate boss Dahāg is depicted as a multiple-headed lizard. In Prince of Persia, warrior within the Prince of Persia flees from a powerful shadowy figure called the Dahāka. In Future Card Buddy Fight, the buddy of the main antagonist is named Demonic Demise Dragon Aži Dahāka. The Marvel Max Terror Inc. issues feature an immortal villain named Zahhak, bound to 2 demonic snakes. Unless fed with other people's brains, they start eating his own. In Atlas video game Ogre Battle 64, person of lordly caliber, Aži Dahāka is a venerable dragon of the earth element that is commonly encountered during the latter half of the game. Other dragons in Iranian tradition. Besides Aži Dahāka, several other dragons and dragon-like creatures are mentioned in Zoroastrian scripture. Aži Ruvara, the horned dragon. Aži Irita, the yellow dragon, that is killed by the hero Asp, Middle Persian Kirsisp. Aži Raoi Delta Eta, the red dragon, conceived by Angra Mainyu to bring about the Diva-induced winter, that is the reaction to Ahura Mazda's creation of the air unum Varaya. Aži Visarpa, the dragon of poisonous slaver that consumes offerings to Aban if they are made between sunset and sunrise. Gander Beta A, the yellow-heeled monster of the sea Varukasha that can swallow 12 provinces at once. On emerging to destroy the entire creation of Asha, it too is slain by the hero Asp. The Aži are in Indo-Iranian tradition. Stories of monstrous serpents who are killed or imprisoned by heroes or divine beings may date back to prehistory, and are found in the myths of many Indo-European peoples, including those of the Indo-Iranians, that is, the common ancestors of both the Iranians and Vedic Indians. The most obvious point of comparison is that in Vedic Sanskrit Ahi is a cognate of Avestan Aži. However, in Vedic tradition, the only dragon of importance is Vrtra, but there is no Iranian tradition of a dragon such as Indian Vrtra. Moreover, while Iranian tradition has numerous dragons, all of which are malevolent, Vedic tradition has only one other dragon besides Vrtra, Ahibudnya, the benevolent dragon of the deep. In the Vedas, gods battle dragons, but in Iranian tradition, this is a function of mortal heroes. Thus, although it seems clear that dragon-slaying heroes were a part of Indo-Iranian tradition and folklore, it is also apparent that Iran and India developed distinct mythology. Quote, Bibliography. Boyce, Mary. History of Zoroastrianism, Volume I. Leiden, Brill, Ingersoll, Ernest A. al. The Illustrated Book of Dragons and Dragon Lore. Chiang Mai Cognoscenti Books. Assen Bood 959 PJO. Shavo, P.O. Azdaha and Old and Middle Iranian. Encyclopedia Iranica 3. New York, Routledge and Amp, Kegan Paul, pp. 191–199. Carnegie Motler, D.J., Azdaha in Persian Literature. Encyclopedia Iranica 3. New York, Routledge and Amp, Kegan Paul, pp. 199–203. Ahmed Sailor, M. Azdaha in Iranian Folk Tales. Encyclopedia Iranica 3. New York, Routledge and Amp, Kegan Paul, pp. 203–204. Russell, J.R. Azdaha, Armenian Zahhāk. Encyclopedia Iranica 3. New York, Routledge and Amp, Kegan Paul, pp. 204–205.